Day 35 readers. We are finishing Matthew chapter 22 today, and this has a couple of great passages, but one of my favorite verses is in this section, so let's dig right in. So the first part of this reading has to do with the Sadducees, and when you see the Pharisees next to the Sadducees, you might think that they're kind of the same person, different name, but these are actually two different groups of people. And the Sadducees focused mostly on the first 5 books of the Old Testament, which is also referred to as the Torah. They also didn't believe in things like the resurrection and angels, things like that, where the Pharisees held that a little bit differently. And so their question to Jesus has to do with the resurrection. And of course, they're trying to catch him in one of their own traps, as we saw a little bit of yesterday with the Pharisees as well. And so they're asking about this idea that when a husband dies, if the woman doesn't have any children with them, then the brother-in-law actually can marry her so that he can produce an heir. And so this is, of course, a little bit of an exaggerated question with 7 different husbands that all die, and who's the husband in the resurrection. And so they're trying to prove, of course, that the resurrection is somewhat incredulous, but what Jesus answers with is that they just don't understand the scripture. And although we don't have great detail on the resurrection and what the after, when we're in heaven, what that kind of looks like in terms of relationships and family, what we do know is what Jesus says is that it's going to be different, but it's going to be enjoyable in its own way. And so, of course, he kind of shuts down the Sadducees by answering the question and talking about how it says, when the crowd heard it, they were astonished at his teaching. And so Jesus throwing out some great wisdom and shutting down those that are questioning him. And then the next section is the Great Commandment. So this is one of my favorite verses that Jesus is referencing back from Deuteronomy. And they're asking, what's the greatest commandment? There's 10 commandments. Which one should we follow the most? Like, which one should we hold highest? And Jesus actually answers with, the greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. And the second one is like it, to love your neighbor as yourself. And I think this kind of, I don't want to say replaces the 10 Commandments, but it definitely puts value on 2 things, to love God and to love others. That's it. That's as simple as it needs to be. It doesn't have to be the 10 Commandments plus hundreds of laws on top of it. It needs to be as simple as love God and love others. And that kind of is the answer to every question that you would have. How should I love this person, or what should I do here? If you're loving God first and you're building that relationship with him, the rest will come naturally. And to love God means that you will love others. Because it says later in the New Testament, in 1 John, that God is love. And if you don't love others, then you can't love God. And so these 2 commandments go hand in hand. And so I just love those verses right there in Matthew. And then we wrap up with this idea that Jesus is asking whose son is the Christ. Because remember, they're trying to figure out who's the Messiah, or if he's the Messiah. And it all links back to when we talked about the genealogy back at the beginning of Matthew, that Jesus is from the line of David. And so, as we've read, many of the people are calling him the son of David, which does reference the idea that they believe he's the Messiah if they believe he's the son of David. But at the same time, we also know that Jesus is saying David called him Lord as well. And so how can he be both? And just this passage is Jesus saying that, yes, I'm from the lineage of David, but I'm God's son. That's what matters more. That's the relationship that means more. And so we see again that Jesus is declaring who he is and his purpose. And as we build up toward the eventual crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus, we see that he comes out to say that he's the one that we've all been waiting for. The Old Testament people, the Jewish generation that's alive during this time, the Gentiles as well. This is what we've been waiting for. So, hope you have a great day and enjoy your time in the Word and enjoy the idea of Jesus' purpose on earth, and go out and love God and love others. Bye, everybody.